Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kansept Knives Pretatout. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apparently that is French for ready for anything. As about 100 of you told me right after I unboxed this. And according to Google, sure enough, that's exactly what that means. So thank you, 100 people. Thanks so much to Kansept for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. So this is a knife that is currently available, and it has a few different forms. I'm going to be linking it right down in the description so that if you want to check it out, you absolutely can. Kind of has an old school ZT vibe to it. Overall length of the Pretatout. Overall length coming in, I said that twice, didn't I? It's about 8 1/4, just shy. Yeah, it's about 8 1/4. Blade length, 3.5 inches. Cutting edge, it's about 3.35 inches, something like that. How about some size comparisons? Just a few. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. So you can see there, a little bit shorter than the Rat 1, definitely longer than the Rat 2. Full-size knife for sure. Up against the Spyderco Para 3, there we go. And last but not least, the Benchmade Bug Out. Definitely bigger than the Bug Out. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Give you a look at the action. It's pretty good. It's about what I'd expect from Kansept, and honestly, their quality control seems to be getting better and better and better. It was already pretty good to begin with. Thickness, a little bit thicker than the Spyderco Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here, it's a little bit shorter than the PM2. Definitely longer than the Para 3. It's got a flipper tab, but even including the flipper tab, it's still not quite as tall as knives like the PM2 and Para 3 that have the big hump in there. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. That's, I don't know, what is Kansept like? 145 to 150 thousand, something like that. Come on now, 0, 0. Jeez Louise. Nope, it's even thinner than that. It's only about 135. It says 133, but about 135 thousandths. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So we are looking at titanium and S35VN here. Inside of the titanium, you can see that it's been milled out a bit for weight reduction. Can we actually see? I don't know if we're actually, yeah, there we go. Right in there, you can see it's been milled out a little bit. It doesn't feel ultra heavy at all. I don't know. I'm going to guess this weighs about 4.75 ounces. That's my guess. Nope, less than that. 4.2 ounces. Honestly, not bad for a full titanium frame lock and a knife that is, 8 1/4 inches overall. Not perfect ratios, but also not bad. A 4.2 ounce object is really not much. I mean, this is, again, it's about the same size as a Hinder XM18 or Hinder Eclipse, and I can tell you that both of those knives in full tie, even milled out, weigh about an ounce more than this knife. So, it's not bad. Let's get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can get them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use in this channel. It looks like that's a T10 for the pivot. Yeah, it is. That's something that I appreciate. It's on both sides. But I like, the large fasteners. Something that bothers me is that on this knife, we've decided that the rest of the fasteners are T6. They're minimal. There's only a couple on each side and a couple for the pocket clip. You don't need to take out the lock bar insert, but yeah, so minimal hardware. It's T6, not a deal breaker. Wish they were T8 or bigger, but they're not. So, place to put your hardware and some quality tools, and you should be just fine. Did we get through all of that? Yes, I think we did. Let's go ahead and talk about the knife. So this is, it's a titanium frame lock that is a flipper that is running on bearings. So we have a lot of those right now, like more than pretty much anything else. So in that sense, it's really not doing anything spectacular or different here. Like this recipe it's been perfected in many forms, right? I do appreciate the fact that we have thumb studs here. That's kind of cool. It's not perfect, but you can, if you get your fingers in there correctly, you can use them. It really does feel like Anybody who's used the thumb stud on an XM18, right, when you finally figure out where you're supposed to flip, that feels very similar. You can use this little groove here to reverse flick the knife out, which is something I appreciate. And the flipping action is great, right? In fact, this knife is extremely smooth, has a well-tuned detent. But again, this is a recipe that we have seen many times over. And a lot of what's in Kansept's line is exactly that. It's more of the same thing, right? It's good, but it's more of the same thing. Ergonomically, there's kind of just like one place that they want you to put your hands, but you're locked in. And honestly, it's pretty comfortable. The pocket clip is nice and flat up top. These edges nicely chamfered, very, very nicely chamfered. This is a comfortable knife to hold. I'm actually pretty happy with the ergonomics here. And fortunately, they did not make the flipper tab a hook shape, and they didn't jimp the underside of it. So if you are, really bearing down and using it with your bare hands, you're not having that, dig into your finger here. This knife probably, and it's like in some ways I'm happy that it has thumb studs, but it also probably doesn't need them. Number one, because it's a bit awkward to deploy. The thumb stud's not in a perfect place. Number two, it's also a little bit in the cutting path. Not a lot, but it's definitely there, right? If you're gonna, cut straight down into cardboard, you're gonna have to clear the thumb stud, so you're gonna have to be over here. Okay. This version is all sort of black washed, and then we have this nice pivot color. I kind of like that. I like it when they have pivot colors and things. But there are some different versions of this. There's like a satin version and a tumbled version with just a titanium, it's like a tumbled titanium frame. It looks pretty good. So you have a couple of different choices. They're nothing too crazy, pretty standard. So we have a Tanto, kind of a short little Tanto up here. Very similar to the Tanto that you would see on like the Umnumzon, the same kind of, similar grind lines. We have this fuller through here. Honestly, the blade looks pretty good. And it also is a Tanto that's got a little bit of belly, which I honestly prefer over Tantos that don't. This is not a perfectly continuous edge. There is definitely a change in angle. So if you're going to be sharpening this over and over and over and over again, chances are that abrupt change in angle is just going to turn into sort of a continuous belly, right? So just be aware of that, right? It's not something that is going to look perfect over time. But this is one of those knives where, because of how they've done this out here, the material out of the tip, there's a lot of it. It's pretty robust. So we're looking at a CPM S35 VN blade. Where does it say that? Yeah, right there, S35 VN. S35 VN is still a wonderful steel, still a super high quality steel, plenty tough, corrosion resistant, good edge retention, etc. There's some people who might say, I prefer S45 VN at that price. I don't know. It's all, it all is a multi-directional teeter-totter. There's pros and cons to everything. S45 VN kind of seems to be like the new premium flavor in the S whatever, department. But S35 VN, I'm okay with it, right? Sure, we see knives that are substantially less expensive in S35 VN. We also see knives that are under $100 in CPM 20 CV. So it's like I always say, while there definitely are steels that are more premium than other steels, reducing the value of a knife to, solely to the materials is not, you're going to miss out on a lot if that's how you think. But to each their own. S35 VN I think is fine. Anyways, this is a relatively thick. It's not like a mega thick edge. It's just definitely not coming down to a thin edge. I would say maybe medium to medium thick is about how it feels right here. But as far as a blade that you can kind of, I don't want to say abuse, it's going to be a tougher geometry, generally speaking, than I suppose what we might be used to. There's sort of more of the Hinder XM18 kind of feel with this thing. I understand the knife has a totally different design and aesthetic, but it's kind of in that ballpark. That's what it's making me think of. There's plenty of room to disengage the frame lock here, nice and cut out, and it's actually, the lock side is actually cut higher than the show side, which is great. No double clutch or anything like that. Very easy to manipulate. This is an exposed frame lock, and because it's like right down the middle, you are gonna be kind of, searching to move. Like you're gonna feel, if you're accidentally pushing too hard on that frame, you're gonna feel that when you go to flip it. right? Just like right there, I missed it. So just, you're going to have to kind of pay attention to where your fingers are on the other side. That's kind of the downfall of frame locks is the lock is exposed, so you can accidentally put too much pressure on it. These lines here give the knife a little bit of character where it would otherwise just be blank and there'd be nothing going on. But again, it's like, this look, I feel like I've seen this exact look about 1,000 times, right? That's not to say that it doesn't work, right? I mean, everything here looks pretty good and it functions pretty good, right? It's just, this has all been done before many, many, many times. So there's not anything super spectacular going on here aesthetically. We have a lanyard slot thing for people who want to put a lanyard back there. We've got a couple of standoffs. The other side is much the same as the front, except we've got the lock side and the pocket clip. The pocket clip is, for whatever reason, they just didn't match it to the titanium. It's like it's coated or painted or something. Okay, that's fine. Not really that big of a deal. There is a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop, which is nice. I like that. The knife locks out completely and totally solid. Stop pin, just regular in a regular place right there. When I say that, I mean it's not internal, right? It's not like there are pegs on the inside and they're running on a channel or anything like that. It's just a normal stop pin. There is no pivot lash. Detent is, I would say, about medium heavy, right? This is a knife that I probably, I can get it to whip out if I whip it really hard, but it feels like it's tuned right for the flipper tab, right? And then the centering on it it's close. I think probably me playing with it has caused it to back out. And just to remind people, that's what pivots do. We do not want these things red Loctited from the factory, or at least I don't, because then if I ever have to adjust it, I'm gonna have to fight the darn thing, and that's not what I wanna do, right? This is a free spinning pivot, I'm gonna let you guys know, and tightening that down seems to have brought that back down to center there. But yeah, I would much rather that be the case, that the pivot is, coming loose a little bit, because that means that I can adjust it the way that I want to and then add some very inexpensive blue Loctite to get everything perfect. So is it a flaw if the pivot starts to back out on its own? No. In fact, I would say that's much better than it being, solidified in place with red Loctite. Now, if it comes from the factory with some blue Loctite, right, that would obviously it being centered and having the right, action and having the pivot, securely in place with blue Loctite from the factory would be ideal. But if it backs out a little bit, it's not really something that bothers me too much, and I don't think it should bother you either. So don't fret about it. How much is this knife? It's about 190 bucks. This knife is made in China, titanium frame lock, flipper, running on bearings, very kind of like, it's kind of like a Hinder Eclipse and an Unumzon kind of came together to make kind of, price is okay. The design is okay. There's nothing spectacular going. Like, this is so straightforward, and I'm not saying it's not good. It's just not special. It just looks like the next frame lock, and it doesn't look like, this looks like something that could have come out in 2014, honestly, right? If you love how this looks and you're just like, I've never seen anything that looks nearly that good. I just love how it looks. Well, yeah, there's about 190 bucks here, right? That's really all I can say about it. I think there are so many other interesting things. And so, like this knife is ergonomic, flips well, and the blade geometry is going to be pretty, utilitarian. It's going to do a lot of different things pretty well, right? So it's a decent knife, but there's a bajillion decent knives out there for 190 bucks. If that's where you want to, if this is the price point you want to shop in, then, okay, this is an okay choice. It's not something that I'm going to openly recommend. I'm kind of getting a little bit more particular about what I say that about and what I don't say that about. So it's just not super interesting. But it's all right. It's linked down there if you want to check it out. You're welcome to use that, but not something that I'm just, head over heels for. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Thanks again to Kansept for sending this in to me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.